We learned more about former President Trump's legal challenges in the Justice Department's investigation. On Tuesday, the DOJ revealed this photo showing classified documents found at Trump's home during the FBI search last month. It shows 5 yellow folders marked top secret and another red folder labeled secret. The photo was part of a filing by the Justice Department. The DOJ also said it believes top secret documents had likely been, quote, concealed and removed from the storage room to obstruct the government's investigation. And on Friday, the DOJ released a detailed list of what was seized from Trump's home. A judge is also considering Trump's request for the appointment of a special master to review the file seized. So, Evan, clearly we're coming to you for this. There are so many developments. Tell us what is most important and what happened, what's most significant about this week.
Well, look, I think you guys, have been talking a little bit about the troubles for Republicans, and this is exactly the kind of thing where Donald Trump is not helping Republicans, because, the former president, or himself, by the way, the former president decided to make this legal move after nearly 3 weeks to ask for a special master. So what that did is that prompted the Justice Department to release a lot of information that otherwise they would never have, because Merrick Garland doesn't believe in telling us very much unless he speaks through court documents. And so some of the things you just listed were there was a deluge of information about, for example, just today, we saw that commingled with magazines and other personal things like clothing, there were dozens, and there was more than 11,000 government documents that were found as part of the search. There were 4 dozen empty folders that were labeled as classified. What was in them? We don't know. We also know that there were about 7 boxes of documents that were taken from the former president's office. Now, keep in mind, back in June, the FBI and the Justice Department told the Trump team that they were to secure everything that was classified information in a storage room. And yet, when they showed up in August, they found all of these documents, including classified top secret stuff, in his office, which really means that, brings it closer to him. So look, the bottom line here is that there's real legal jeopardy for the former president. There's real legal jeopardy for people around him who are handling some of this stuff and who swore that, they had turned over everything. And the worst part for Republicans is all of this is coming out, and it's going to keep coming out because of the former president's legal maneuvers in this Florida court, which means we're going to keep getting reminded about this between now and the midterms, most likely.
And you're talking about people close to President Trump having legal jeopardy, Evan. Legal specialists say 2 lawyers for former President Trump, they might either become targets or witnesses of this investigation. What's your reporting on that?
No, that's right, exactly. And we saw one of those lawyers actually show up in court, and a lot of us were kind of astonished, because at some point, you become a fact witness and potentially someone who could get hauled before the grand jury. And most lawyers know that once you get to that stage, then you need to pull away from the legal case of your client. So we'll see whether that happens. The former president has brought in some real legal help. Chris Kise is a former Solicitor General of Florida. He's now representing the former president. And so now, we now believe that, certainly one of the lawyers who signed the declaration, Christina Bobb, Evan Corcoran, these are people who are potentially witnesses in this criminal investigation that the Justice Department says is still really just at the beginning.
And Jamar, we have Attorney General Bill Barr that just today saying that it was unprecedented for the president to take these classified documents and put them in a country club. You have that, juxtapose that with Lindsey Graham saying that there's going to be riots in the streets if he's prosecuted. Tell me about the Republican response and what's going on here.
Yeah, look, I think when the feds raided Mar-a-Lago, I think there was an initial circling of the wagons. This is unprecedented. This is a really extreme step. We need more facts. Well, I think in the weeks since then, we have gotten more facts, and we've gotten them mostly through these court filings. some of them precipitated, in fact, by the Trump legal team, which has, effectively invited some of these filings that have, in fact, shed more light on the allegations that the former president did, in fact, bring top secret material, including some human intelligence, spycraft, with him to his residence in South Florida, which it's pretty easily accessible if you're a member or a guest there. And I think you've seen Yamiche Republicans, at least the more prudent ones, grow notably more quiet, at least about the facts here, because they don't want to get too far out there not knowing precisely what Trump had in those documents. So I think you have seen a shift. And look, I think some of those who are close to Trump are never going to abandon him. But I think there's a sort of broader faction of the party that is not going to want to be linked to him if he is found, if he's indicted, and then certainly if he's found guilty of, violating the Espionage Act or obstruction of justice.
All things that are really, really sort of very, very serious allegations. Evan, I want to come to you. We have a couple minutes, and I want to try to get to these ladies at the table, but I have to ask you one other thing, which is, what's the significance of this special master and the judge considering it?
Well, the judge, her name is Eileen Connor. She's a Trump appointee in West Palm Beach, and it was quite surprising that just based on the filing from the former president, she decided to rule last Saturday that she was inclined to appoint a special master. This is like a third-party lawyer, typically, or former judge maybe, that would basically come in and look at all of the documents and decide whether there was any attorney-client privilege material that needed to be put aside. Now, the issue for the Trump team and for all of this is that the FBI has been doing this for like nearly 3 weeks, as something Bill Barr pointed out. So the significance here is that this could potentially delay this investigation, which of course we know is part of the strategy from Donald Trump that goes back years. So we'll see whether she grants it. We're still waiting at this hour to see whether she grants it.
We'll definitely be watching that. And I'll come to Laura. You've been covering former President Trump. What do you make of just sort of the PR of this and the arguments that he's making against it?
Well, one thing that really I'm struck by is the fact that we don't know the full breach, right? We don't know, the Director of National Intelligence is conducting a damage assessment, but how many people had their hands on this? How many people went through there? The fact that classified information was commingled with non-classified, you talk to any intel official and that's a no-no right off the bat, because that means that someone who's reaching for non-classified information automatically then touches something that's classified, and that's now compromised.
10 seconds. Yasmin, you obviously know very deeply how President Trump functions. What do you make of the way that he's handling this?
I think it's pretty typical in trying to blame everyone else, going back to saying he should be reinstated as president. I think it's all kind of predictable, but it does his reaction does seem like he is seriously concerned about what kind of trouble he might end up in.
And this is all stuff that we're going to have to continue to watch, as former President Trump is saying this is a smash and grab, and the Justice Department is saying this is a very serious and fair way that they went about doing this. So thank you, all of you, for Jonathan, Evan, Yasmin, and Laura, for joining us and for sharing your reporting on this holiday weekend.